Finnley and the Forest of Melodies. On the outskirts of a small village named Willowbrook, nestled between a sparkling river and the edge of the enchanted woods, lived a boy named Finnley. Finnley was known for his love of music. He would spend his days playing his handmade flute under the big willow tree that stood in the middle of the village. The villagers adored his tunes, saying they were as soothing as the river's gentle current, and many even claimed the birds would stop singing just to listen to Finnley play. One evening, as the last rays of sunlight disappeared behind the hills, Finnley sat under his favourite willow tree, his flute resting on his knees. He was playing a new melody, one that had come to him in a dream the night before. As he played, something peculiar happened. A breeze swept through the village, carrying the sound of his flute into the enchanted woods. The leaves began to shimmer in response, as if they were joining in his song, and he heard a faint echo of his tune coming from deep within the forest. Finnley paused, his heart pounding with excitement. The enchanted woods were a place of wonder, filled with stories of magic, mystery, and, according to his grandmother, melodies that only the pure of heart could hear. He had always been warned to stay away. People claimed the forest was easy to get lost in, and its magic was unpredictable. But tonight, the echoing melody seemed to be calling to him, inviting him to follow. His curiosity got the best of him. With his flute clutched tightly in his hands, Finnley stood up, took a deep breath, and started towards the edge of the woods. The air seemed to hum with excitement, and the shimmering leaves almost seemed to light a path for him as he stepped into the forest. Would you be brave enough to follow the call of a magical melody? Where do you think it might lead you? The forest was unlike anything Finnley had ever imagined. The trees stood tall and proud, their branches weaving together above him to form a natural archway that glowed with a soft golden light. Tiny glowing orbs floated lazily through the air, and the ground beneath his feet was covered in a thick carpet of moss that seemed to glow under the moonlight. The air was cool and filled with the scent of wildflowers, and Finnley could hear the faint, sweet notes of a flute echoing through the trees, guiding him deeper into the forest. As Finnley followed the melody, he came across a small clearing where a stream wound its way through the woods, the water sparkling under the moonlight. He knelt by the stream, cupping his hands to drink, when he noticed a small creature on the other side of the stream, a rabbit, but not just any rabbit. Its fur shimmered with a silvery hue, and its eyes were bright and curious. The rabbit tilted its head, as if studying Finnley, before hopping across the stones to his side of the stream. "Are you the one playing that lovely melody?" the rabbit asked, its voice soft and gentle. Finnley blinked in surprise, almost dropping his flute. You can talk," he stammered. The rabbit smiled. "Of course I can. I am one of the keepers of the Forest of Melodies. Only those who are pure of heart and who truly love music can hear us. And tonight, the forest has called to you." The rabbit gestured with its paw. "Come, follow me. There is someone who would like to meet you." Finnley stood up, his heart racing. He nodded, and the rabbit led the way along the stream, the melody growing louder as they walked. The deeper they went, the more magical the forest became. Flowers that glowed in every colour imaginable lined the path, their petals opening and closing in time with the music. Birds with feathers like rainbows flew overhead, and small creatures peeked out from behind the trees, their eyes wide with curiosity. Imagine you're walking through the Forest of Melodies. What kind of magical creatures do you think you'd meet along the way? Finally, they reached a large clearing, and Finnley gasped in awe. In the center of the clearing stood a grand tree, its trunk wide and twisted, and its branches reaching high into the sky, covered in glowing leaves. Hanging from the branches were hundreds of delicate wind chimes, each one shimmering with its own light. At the base of the tree sat a figure, her long hair flowing like a waterfall of silver. She looked up as Finnley approached, her eyes twinkling like stars. "Welcome, young one," she said, her voice melodic and kind. "I am Lyra, the guardian of the Forest of Melodies. I have heard your music, and I must say, it is beautiful." Finnley blushed, stepping closer. "Thank you," he said softly. "But why did you call me here?" Lyra smiled, her gaze gentle. "The forest has chosen you, Finnley. Your heart is pure, and your music brings joy to all who hear it. Tonight, we are holding a special ceremony, and we would like you to be a part of it." Finnley felt a mixture of excitement and nerves. "What do I have to do?" he asked. Lyra stood, her gown shimmering in the moonlight. "All you need to do is play your flute, young one. Let your heart guide the melody, and the forest will do the rest." Finnley nodded, his hands trembling slightly as he lifted his flute to his lips. He took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and began to play. The notes flowed from his flute, soft and gentle, and the forest seemed to respond. The wind chimes hanging from the tree began to sway, their delicate music blending with Finnley's melody. The glowing leaves above began to shimmer, casting a soft golden light across the clearing. As Finnley played, the animals gathered around, their eyes wide with wonder. The birds perched on the branches above, their feathers glowing under the light of the tree. Even the flowers seemed to sway, their petals glowing brighter with each note. Finnley felt a warmth spreading through his chest, a sense of joy and connection unlike anything he had ever felt before. Imagine you're standing in the clearing, listening to Finnley's music. How would you feel? Would you want to dance, sing, or simply close your eyes and listen? Suddenly, the ground beneath the tree began to shimmer, and a glowing circle of light appeared at its base. Lyra stepped into the circle, her arms raised, and the light grew brighter, spreading outwards until the entire clearing was bathed in its glow. Finnley felt the magic in the air, the energy flowing through him, and he played with all his heart, the melody growing louder and more beautiful. The wind chimes swayed faster, their music blending with the flute, and the animals began to move, dancing, leaping, and spinning in time with the melody. Finnley felt his own feet moving, and soon he was dancing too, his flute still at his lips, his heart filled with joy. The light grew brighter, and suddenly there was a flash. Finnley stopped playing, lowering his flute as the light faded. The clearing was quiet, the animals still, their eyes wide with awe. In the center of the glowing circle, a small crystal floated, its light soft and warm. Lyra stepped forward, taking the crystal in her hands. She turned to Finnley, her eyes filled with gratitude. "You have done well, young one. This crystal holds the magic of the Forest of Melodies. It is a gift to you, a reminder of the magic that lives within your heart." Finnley took the crystal, his eyes wide. It was warm in his hands, and he felt a sense of peace and joy as he held it. He looked up at Lyra, his heart full. "Thank you," he said softly. "But will I be able to come back?" Lyra smiled, her gaze gentle. "The magic of the forest is always here, Finnley. Whenever you play your flute, the forest will hear, and you will always find your way back." Finnley nodded, his heart swelling with happiness. He looked around at the clearing, at the animals who had danced with him, and at the glowing tree that filled the night with light. He knew this was a night he would never forget. As the ceremony came to an end, the animals began to settle, their eyes closing, their bodies curling up beneath the glowing leaves. Finnley sat beside the tree, his crystal in his hands, his eyes growing heavy. He felt the warmth of the forest around him, the gentle glow of the leaves like a blanket of stars. Before he drifted off to sleep, Finnley looked up at Lyra, who stood by the tree, her eyes watching over them all. "Will I see you again?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Lyra smiled, her eyes soft. "The magic of the forest is always here, Finnley. Whenever you need it, just listen for the melody." Finnley closed his eyes, a smile on his lips, and let the warmth of the forest lull him into a deep, peaceful sleep. "Do you think you'd be brave enough to follow the melody like Finnley did? What kind of magic would you hope to find?" And so the magic of the Forest of Melodies lived on, in the trees, in the animals, and in the heart of a young boy named Finnley, who had played beneath the glowing leaves and found his place among the wonders of the enchanted woods.